Hey, this is John with Hidden Highways, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about van dwelling and the eclipse. On August 21st, there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun in parts of the United States, and this is going to be probably the first. I believe it's going to be the last total eclipse in the United States for something like 90 years or something. So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So if you live in a van, either part time or full time, this is a great opportunity for you to visit the part of the country where this is going on, especially because places like hotels have been anywhere along the eclipse path are going to pretty much going to be all booked up, and many hotels have been booked up for years in advance on that date. And then also, a lot of them are going to be charging like three times the amount, the normal amount. So if you have a van or RV, then this would be a great opportunity then to try to find someplace along the eclipse to view this. So I'm just going to go to a couple of websites and show you a few maps just to get you started. This isn't the definitive guide, but this will at least give you a few things just to kind of get you started. So there's many different places where you can go. First of all, to see the path of the eclipse, a map, but the best one I found was this one on CNN.com. And by the way, I'm going to put a link to all these maps in the description. So okay, so basically it just shows here's a path of totality and then the time. So if you're anywhere in this path here during on that date, you're going to be able to. It's going to be completely dark. The sun's going to be completely blocked out by the moon, and then earlier in the day, it's going to be a partial eclipse. It's going to start building up, and then now outside, if you're outside of this zone, you're going to see a partial eclipse, not a full eclipse. So the sun's going to only be partially blocked out. But I mean, if you're gonna come down to any place near the eclipse, I mean, you might as well get into the path of totality. I mean, just get the full experience. And then so you can see that basically it starts up in Oregon, goes through Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, and through the center all the way down to South Carolina. And now, um, the way I kind of in my mind was kind of trying to memorize this is saying that it's going to go through Salem, Oregon, and then it's going to go through Boise. Well, actually, it's just going to go through. It's a little bit north of Boise. It's not going to actually hit Boise, and then it's going to go through Casper, Wyoming. Sorry, I got some airplanes taking off in the background here. Um, Staying at a base right now, military base with my dad in his RV right now. But anyway, and then you got Lincoln, Nebraska here. It's going to go through Lincoln, Nebraska, and then Kansas City, at least part of Kansas City, and then St. Louis, Missouri, at least part of St. Louis, at least more like the south part of the city and South County and Jefferson County. Then it's going to go through Nashville, most of Nashville, and then it's going to finally then the last big city it's going to go through is Charleston, South Carolina. So if you kind of keep those cities in mind, that'll kind of give you some idea of where. Now, the thing about it too to remember is that the closest to the center is the eclipse is going to last the longest too. So if you were like, let's say, someplace right on the edge, then it's maybe only going to last like a second or something. Maybe it's just going to barely. So you want to be as close to the center as possible. So maybe, I mean, just you can camp somewhere in this area, but then the day of, I would look very closely, and I'm sure there's different apps out there showing the path, and just try to find some places close to the center. But if you look at this map now, this is a good way just to kind of, plan your where you want to go. You can kind of see that, and where you go, a large part of it's going to depend on how far other you can get away from, where you happen to be during that time of the year, or maybe you'll be able to, you might be flexible enough just to pick some of the most ideal places, and then okay, now the next one I want to look at is just so it's not going to be any good if it's cloudy that day. So what you want to do is maybe look for where one consideration is where the clouds might be the least. So now this guy Jay Anderson, he put together a good little website showing talking about the average cloud cover. I mean, now of course this is average. I mean, there's no telling what the weather will be that day, but at least on average, this is what the cloud cover is like. And you can see that these areas that in the pink here, this is kind of this is pretty good. It means it's pretty low cloud cover, and then you can see the this green is not so good. It's not as good, and then this darkest green, which actually okay, forget about the darkest green because there's really nowhere on the eclipse path that is even this darkest green. So really you got this tan color, and then this lighter color pink that's very good, and then you got this green, which is not so good. So you can see that it was kind of surprising because I had kind of thought about like Oregon, and I think a lot of people were thinking that would be about the best place to go, and then but because it being in the desert and everything, but along this path here. But actually, if you look at this here, he kind of gives some of the major cities, and actually my hometown. I live in Minnesota, but my hometown of St. Louis is actually going to be almost as good as about any place as far as chance of seeing clouds. And so actually, so maybe I'll just go stay down at my mom's house because they live out in Jefferson County, Missouri, which is so they're going to be right in um, the path of totality, pretty near the center of it. So that'd be probably pretty good, But I might take my van someplace else, But that might be a good place. But and then you can see like Casper, Wyoming. That's pretty good, and then Boise, Idaho, and then as far as Oregon, it's kind of hard to tell by this map. I mean, maybe you can write the guy who made this web page, Jay Anderson, see if he wanted to maybe he'll want to make a more detailed map of this. But it looks like there's kind of a stretch here where it's actually pretty cloudy, and then you have and then an area in here which you can't really tell exactly where it is, but where it'll probably be very low chance of clouds. But of course, it's something to kind of watch the weather that week of, when you start getting in these areas and kind of see what it's going to be like. But it's just something to consider. But you can see like maybe like Charleston, probably that might not be the good place as far as there's going to be maybe a pretty good chance for it being cloudy down here in Charleston. But but it all depends because I mean Charleston is a really nice city and it would be really nice to see during the eclipse. But it's just it's kind of a gamble, But nobody you have to take that into consideration. And plus, if you live maybe somewhere along the East Coast, maybe Charleston, that might be as far as you can really get away to see the eclipse. But so anyway, then the next thing you might want to think about is where federal land and where if you wanted to try to camp somewhere like BLM land and national forest, that sort of thing. And as you probably maybe know that most of that sort of land is actually in this part of the country, the west. So let's just say that the path of the eclipse is going to go somewhere along this cursor here. So somewhere in this area would probably be a good place if you want to try to camp on some federal land. But I guess you could also, and then you're going to go through St. Louis, and then St. Louis has some federal land, but it's more like in the south part of the state. Did I say St. Louis? I'm sorry, Missouri. It's more in the south part of the state. And so, anyway, so you go along here, and then Charleston. I guess maybe this. I know you got Francis Marion National Park, or not National Park, State. All right, let's say that again. It's a national forest that's like right outside of Charleston. That maybe would be a good place. And of course, you stealth campers. You can always look at camping someplace in St. Louis on the street someplace, discreetly, or you could or Charleston or Casper may probably be pretty good too. I know Casper, there's some free campgrounds just right outside the city. Plus, it's close to some federal land, so that would maybe be a pretty good place for that. It's you just gotta take these things into consideration. Maybe I should say a little bit more about St. Louis, just because that's where I'm from and I'm familiar with where I'm originally from. Haven't lived there in about 10 years, but still, I go back there often. But so you can see here that it's going to be basically, yeah, okay, what we call South St. Louis, and then South County, and then out here into Jefferson County. And now, if you're going to stealth camp, I guess probably somewhere in South City, maybe in this area, you could probably be okay. There's a lot of people parking the street. You could maybe get away with it. You don't want to stay, don't want to so much stay on the north side because that's a lot of times not super safe. Don't want to like assault people there. But I mean, it's just but it's just kind of true that it is kind of like higher crime. And then this part of South City is kind of higher crime too. So maybe somewhere in this area would be okay, and then maybe somewhere getting into some of these areas like Shrewsbury and stuff, just some of these areas where there's still a lot of apartment buildings and things are pretty dense and people are parallel parking and stuff. You would probably be okay. And then lastly, what I did is we know Walmart's is one of the favorite places for people to go camping. And so I put together here, I made this map and I'll include a link. And this is on my Google My Maps. These are Walmarts along the eclipse path and now we know that not all Walmarts allow camping, but at least most of them you can usually get away with it. And so you might want to look into each one of these individually. But and now I'm not going to say this is completely accurate because the problem is to make this map I couldn't find an easier way than just keeping like clicking between this map and then between a regular Google map and then go into this map to try to do this. So I was kind of doing it, eyeballing this. So this, it's possible I may have missed a few Walmarts, or maybe it may not be. There might be a few that are either real close to the edge or maybe slightly outside of the edge. So I mean, obviously, this isn't the definitive guide, but this is just kind of to get you started here. But you can see there's some of these. Oh yeah, I do know that it seems like from what I've heard and stuff in my experience that the Walmarts in Oregon aren't super friendly, but maybe this one further out here from the main area might be a little nicer. And then, but anyway, you can see it just kind of goes this line through. Of course, there's more of them when you get toward um, the bigger cities here, St. Louis, Kansas City, and then there's some around Columbia, Missouri, and stuff. Then here in Nashville. But anyway, this, and then you could see. So maybe pick one of these that's kind of now Walmart's usually it tends like they're more friendly to camping if they're more like not in the middle of a city or something. But you just have to kind of think about it. But anyway, so this is just a few things as far as van dwelling and RV dwelling and the eclipse, and just kind of a few sites to get you started. I'll have links to these, and a lot of this can apply to tent camping as well. Not so much the Walmart thing or the camping in cities, but as far as like some of these lands out here, these federal lands. So yeah, this is John. I hope this gets you started, and obviously do a lot more of your own research. And there's a lot more maps out there that you can research and there'll probably be more of them released as we get closer to the event. Have a good day. Thanks.